Okay, Tzorayim Tov, everybody. We continue in our limud Eshpoich Lefonov Sichi. We are going to skip chapter 5. Amir Hashem will come back to it sometime in the future. It's a very good chapter, but it's getting into a lot of details, and I know you guys are just anxious to get more practical information about HISBODEDUS, so I'm going to skip it for the time being, and Amir Hashem, when I feel it's the right time, will come back to it. The 6th chapter begins more practical understandings here. So we're starting at page Tzadi Zion, Perek Vav, Ein lo adam she'ein lo shah. There is not a person who doesn't have his time. That's a statement from Pirkei Avos, which basically says that, everybody is special, everybody's important, everybody has their time where they can be very useful and very productive. That's a general idea. So therefore, we should never look down at anybody. You may say, what's this person doing for me in my life? You never know. First of all, they may be doing a lot that you're unaware of. But there'll always be that time where that person that you disdain, that you think is worthless, shines and is so helpful that the world would be deficient without that person being in this world. That's the general idea. Now, what we're going to do, we're going to take this idea and apply it to HISBODEDUS, as we shall see. Okay, so he starts with a statement from Likutei Moharan, and the main idea is Shas HISBODEDUS, how much time to spend on HISBODEDUS. Okay, this will probably take 2 sessions or maybe 3, and we got to really put this idea to bed to know where to start in terms of that, because we've heard a lot of things about this hour. So let's start with a quote from Likutei Moharan. Hazman shel HISBODEDUS eina shava lakol. The author says that the amount of time we spend on HISBODEDUS isn't equal for everybody. Now he quotes. Omar, the Rabbi says, "Sheritzona shilanu kol hayom HISBODEDUS ulavalos kol hayom al zeh." The Rabbi taught us that we should have a whole day for HISBODEDUS and spend it a whole day on that. Okay? And what does he mean by that? He means just like there's a similar idea with Birchas HaTorah. It's a very interesting halacha. When we, on the holiday of Sukkot, in the morning, we have breakfast in the sukkah, we make the bracha leishev b'sukkah. Later on in the day, we have lunch in the sukkah, we make leishev b'sukkah again. Later on, we have supper in the sukkah, we make leishev b'sukkah again. Why? Because we say that each meal is a separate meal. When you're finished with the sukkah, as it were. And most of us are not staying in the sukkah the whole day. On the other hand, in the morning, we say the Birchas HaTorah, the blessings on the Torah, which is for the pleasure of learning Torah and for the privilege of learning Torah. Now, you make that bracha in the morning. Okay, you have a Gemara class right after davening, but then you got to work for 8 hours. Or let's say take a break at lunch. Maybe you should make a Birchas HaTorah right now because you've been working for the last 4 hours. But that's not the halacha. One bracha for Birchas HaTorah lasts the entire day. Why is that? And this is the important point. The important point being because our default position in life is to always learn Torah. If you ask a Jewish man, what do you do in your life? He would say, I learn Torah. You're going to work? That's just a distraction. I don't want to do it. I got to do it or I'll die. So I'm going to take a break from my learning Torah and I'll be distracted with my work for a while. But I plan any free moment I have is to learn Torah. And that's what you have in mind when you say the first Birchas HaTorah. While you're in a sukkah, that's not so. Unless you would really theoretically stay in the sukkah the whole day, that could be a different issue. So therefore, this is the same idea with HISBODEDUS. What the Rebbe means to spend the whole day of HISBODEDUS is not the way we look at it is, I'm living my life, okay, I'll distract my life by having some time for HISBODEDUS. No, the Rebbe says every minute of your life, there's another default position. And this default position really supersedes every default position. And that's HISBODEDUS. Being alone with Hashem. That is the real purpose of why you were created, to cleave to God. And that happens during HISBODEDUS. Now, it defaults, that's the default. Okay, but part of your life is you have to learn Torah. Okay, so now before you learn Torah, you say, okay, now I'm going to learn Torah closely together with Hashem. And Hashem is something, but I'm not going to be talking straight to Hashem. I'm going to be learning his Torah with Hashem. Then you go out to work. You're still going to work with Hashem, even though you're not going to be talking to him directly. So what he means is that really it's still the default position. It's not like the way we look at davening 3 times a day. Okay, I start the day, I daven. Okay, I leave the shul, and I'm not thinking about the shul. I'm not thinking about davening anymore. And that's correct. You're not supposed to. Now I'm going to do other things in life. Then it's 2 o'clock. Okay, I got to think back to get back to shul. Fine. Once I finish, I leave. I don't think about it anymore. Then I wait till nighttime to go to shul, and that's the 3rd time. HISBODEDUS doesn't work like that. HISBODEDUS, you're supposed to be together with Hashem every minute of the day. Now, there's certain times where you're going to talk privately to Hashem, and that you can do often throughout the day. And certainly, as we'll see, you have to set a good chunk of time, at least once a day, for only HISBODEDUS. Again, to make this analogy a little clearer, let's say you're married to somebody. Okay, the assumption is you love your wife. The assumption is you think about your wife. That's the assumption, which I know for many, it's a big assumption. But if that's your assumption, well, certainly you're going to spend part of your day HISBODEDUS with her, talking to her only. A day should not go by without you talking to your spouse, and only without any interruptions and no cell phones either. Okay? Then throughout the day, you're thinking about your wife insofar as how will it relate to her. Your boss wants you to stay another hour at work. You say, I got to think about that. I got to think about how my wife is going to want that or not. I may call her for a little while to get her opinion on the matter. Or maybe I could think it through in my mind, knowing what she really would want or not. And therefore, your wife is always on your mind. As you're leaving from work, you have to go somewhere for your own personal needs. You're going to call your wife and say, I'm already at this place. Is anything going to get you while I'm on the way? So you're always, that's another default. There's many layers of default in one's life. But a person doesn't look, okay, I spend my 20 minutes with my wife at dinner. I don't want to think about her the rest of the day. I got other things on my mind. Not a good idea. Okay, same thing with Hashem, and now much more with Hashem. Hashem is the default position. And therefore, you're always talking to Hashem. You're driving to work. You say, Hashem, please give me hatzlacha, that the drive should be very uneventful, and I shouldn't do anything wrong while I'm driving. Throughout the day, it could be a very brief 10-second tefillah, and that could be sprinkled with 20 of them throughout the day. On top of the fact, you're going to set a specific time to only talk to Hashem. So that's really, and if you're on a level like Rabbi Nachman, you're always feeling Hashem is with you. And it's like you're with Hashem the whole day, and then comes an interruption. You're learning Torah, okay? And you're a big rabbi, and you're very sought out. So let's say someone like Chaim Kanievsky. Certain times he's learning, he cannot be interrupted. 3-4 hours, whatever, don't even think of interrupting him. Then what is next? His default position is learning. Okay, now if there's interruptions, he'll put aside the sefer. It's time to see people in the community. Okay, Kabbalah's call. People have their problems. Okay, yes, you see the problems. So a person comes in, tells a problem. The person goes out. From when that person goes out to the next person comes in, maybe 30 seconds. You know what Rabbi Chaim does? He goes back to the Sefer in for 30 seconds to look at that Sefer. He looks as everybody else is interrupting. It's fine, but he's always holding and learning. Person's always holding and talking to Hashem. And therefore, there are interruptions, but the default position is to talk to Hashem. So there's levels of the default. We'll say the highest default is being with Hashem. That's your highest default. But Hashem himself says you got to do other things. You got to learn Torah. Okay, fine. I got to learn Torah. But I'm going to learn Torah with Hashem in the room. I can't necessarily talk straight to Hashem because I got to say, I'm a Rava, I'm a Rabbi, this and that. But I feel Hashem's in the room, although I don't have to directly talk to him. Or when you're really stuck in the Gemara, you say, Hashem, I don't understand this Gemara. You stop from Hashem, please. I've been working this Gemara for half. I don't understand it. Please help me. So that's part of the default inside the sub-default of learning Torah. Then there's another default, your family. So you have to know how to hold all these defaults. So Rebbe, when he says all day long, he certainly doesn't mean for 18 hours you just talk to Hashem without doing anything else. That's not what he means at all. But he's saying is that the default is 24/7. Every waking moment, you're with Hashem. And if you need anything, immediately you talk to him because he's right next to you the whole time. Everything else is an interruption from that. Okay, that's what he means. But even that, but not everybody can do this. Okay, therefore we are forced. We have to make at least to command that everybody should have 1 hour of HISBODEDUS. Because that's also very good. If you can't be with Hashem all day long, 1 hour HISBODEDUS. But a person's heart is strong with Hashem. And you really want to accept the yoke of God's service in truth. He wants his whole day to be HISBODEDUS, as the Gemara Bracha says. Halavai, a person would daven all day long. That's what he means. That's in one piece of the Likutei Moharan. Then in the Chayim Moharan, he says, Rabbi said, it's impossible to command people to do this all day long, except for 1 hour in the day. We can't make it too hard on them. But really, the whole day should be HISBODEDUS. Or in a third source, HISBODEDUS is the highest virtue beyond everything. To establish at least 1 hour or more. To commune alone with Hashem in any particular room or in the field. Okay, that is the initial sources. Now we get into a discussion. What does the Rebbe really mean? Oh, there's still one more source over here on page Sariches. The person who was mentioned earlier in this Sikha said, the Rebbe commanded him to have 2 hours of HISBODEDUS. First 1 hour getting ready for the HISBODEDUS, getting ready for it, and preparing his heart for the HISBODEDUS. And then to speak to Hashem for an hour. That's in the Sichas Torah. Okay, now Sichazu Kachola Nira, this type of speak as it appears. Hamakor Hanemon Lativim Arena Rabbi Nosson Likut Elochos. This becomes the source for what Rabbi Nosson wrote in his great number of Svarim called Likutei Halachos. Quote: This is the true path. If you really want to enter the holiness and get close to Hashem, the main thing is to increase in prayer and speech between himself and Hashem, as we've said many times. And I know, and this is very hard. Okay, therefore the beginning, Lisho sha'achas lamakilim. You should pause for 1 hour to be like death. Rakishteke v'yitzapeh. You should be yearning and anticipating. V'yitla einav l'morim, and cast your eyes up. She'ashpielo dvarim chamid. Hashem should bring down warm words. V'yeshev v'zdato etiv, and to settle your mind properly. Heichen ubam, where he is in the world. V'heichen nita, and where the person has made a mistake, where he has wandered off. Again, you see all this idea, and here becomes the real question. The question is, what does the word sha'a achas mean? The word sha'a is a very interesting meaning. Sha'a can literally mean a 60-minute hour. A sha'a can mean an amount of time without anything specific. So what do we think the Rebbe means? So he says, from the words of Rabbi Nachman and the way he uses it, before it's clear, Kishishim dakos. When he says an hour, he means 60 minutes. V'lo perek zman she'ein lo kitzva, and not just an amount of time that doesn't have a set limit. Because look what he writes. He says, "Al kol ponim, you should at least have sha'a o yoser, a sha'a or more." So sha'a can't mean just any amount of time or more than any amount of time. It has to mean 60 minutes or more, right? Because if sha'a in zman katsuv, if the sha'a is not an hour, then how can you say shal yoser, a moment or more? And that's what he says in Sichas Haran. Shtei shos bayom, 2 hours in the day. Sha'achas, 1 hour for this, 1 hour for that. V'chein shamati me Rabbi Levi Yitzchak. This is Rabbi Levi Yitzchak Bender. I looked this up now. He's going to be quoted often. Rabbi Levi Yitzchak Bender was a very big, here, we'll just give you, oh, you're not going to have the picture over here. Those who are live can see the picture. That's from Levi Yitzchak Bender. He was born in Poland in 1897. He died in Yerushalayim 1989. A big chassid of Breslov, and was in Breslov, Yerushalayim, very chashiv. And he's going to quote this rabbi often. So he quotes, it's not Rabbi Levi Yitzchak of Berditchev, but Rabbi Yitzchak Bender. Shehir ba ledaber, I'm sorry, Rabbi Levi Yitzchak, when people asked him about it, what did it mean when the Rebbe said a sha'ah? So he said in Yiddish, a sha'ah meant a sha'ah. In Hebrew, sha'ah perusha sha'ah. A sha'ah means an hour of 60 minutes. That's what the Rebbe meant. Now, but here comes the more important point. Rabbi Levi, don't get nervous. I know you're all saying, I don't got an hour. Forget it. I'm out of the program. Don't worry. Let's wait till the end of the chapter. You don't have to get. And we're going to see. You could start less, and the idea being you're going to like it so much, we'll have to pull you away after an hour. To pull you away after an hour. Right now, if you say, "Oh man, I don't got an hour in my day." Okay, so we'll see how much time you do. And that's going to be, by the end of this chapter, everybody has to, for their own selves, write down how many minutes you're going to start with. I'm just telling you what's going to come at the end of this chapter. Because if you don't start, the goal is, guys, Rosh Chodesh Elul, we start HISBODEDUS. Because remember, he who judges himself below will not be judged above. So you still got 2 weeks to live your life the way you want to. It's vacation time. When we get to Elul, you got to tell God you're serious. So you're going to have to, now the best way to do this, but I'm not going to say this, is you have to email me what is going to be the amount of time you're going to start with and what time of the day you're going to do it. That would be the best, because then I can be on your case and you'll be afraid of me. And that might help. But I don't know if I don't want to treat you that way, although I really do, but I don't think it'll work. But if you want to, you can do that. And I got to do the same thing, and I should send it out to you guys, and you'll be on my case. It's a group effort, guys. And we'll see how you're praying. Oh, Rabbi, please make it as little as possible. Yeah, okay, don't worry. We got this all in mind. But at least for Elul, make a Kabbalah for 40 days, just like all these people. Oh, for 40 days, I'm going to say Tehillim at the Kotel. For 40 days, we're going to do this. So you know what the best skula for what you want 40 days, HISBODEDUS of a small amount. So get your minds wrapped around this. We have 2 weeks from, I think it's today. I think 2 weeks from today is Rosh Chodesh El, or maybe yesterday. I'll have to check again. So that's what we have to think. So we're going to talk, but here's the next very important point. Rav Levi Yitzchak Zal, the same Rav Levi Yitzchak Bender says, he talked a lot about Tamidim Kisudram. That's a play on words from the Chumash, which literally means a korban tamid every day. The malas v'rechav hisbodedus, in the virtues of and the necessity of hisbodedus, nimna malahasker b'sichosov, when he talked a lot about it, he would refrain. When he was teaching about hisbodedus, he would take out these 2 words, shah hisbodedus, an hour of hisbodedus. Even though he's a big chassid and would talk a lot about hisbodedus, but he always would refrain from saying for a full hour. But at the same time, he never said that a short hisbodedus is as good as a long hisbodedus. So he was very careful not to pin himself down on anything. So then when they asked Rabbi Levi Yitzchak Bender, they asked him, what's going on? You don't tell us clear guidance in your writings. He says, and he writes, I don't want to emphasize the obligation of a full hour of hisbodedus. Why? There's a lot of people not holding on that level. Because you guys are going to hear that you have to have hisbodedus for an hour. You talk about they're going to lose heart. They're going to give up before they even start. I don't got an hour, and it's not going to be. Even though many people do have an hour, if you figure, just take the next 2 weeks, calculate how much time you waste. Okay? Try to make a little running calculation of how much time you waste a day. You'll be surprised how much you waste. But anyway, so they're going to think, if I keep saying an hour and an hour and an hour, on page study test, they're going to think anything less than an hour isn't worth anything. And therefore, so it's going to cause them, they're not going to be involved at all. That's why I'm not saying an hour. On the other hand, Rabbeinu HaKadosh, but Rabbi Nachman did say, so you need to have an hour. Now, so if I start talking about 10 or 15 minutes, what mistake will people make on that end? They're going to translate things incorrectly. They're going to think the initial best way is to do it in a few minutes, because Rabbi Levi Yitzchak Bender said I only have to spend 10 minutes. So therefore, he has to, not say anything specifically. If I say an hour, you're too scared. If I say 10, 15 minutes, you think, oh, I'm doing it the best way possible. So he avoided it. So therefore, Yesod Lidvarmin Elamedim Echtafav Shel Moreinu Rabbi Nosson the Sefer Olim Litrufa. The foundations, what we can learn from the writings, the letters of Rabbi Nosson in his Sefer called Olim Litrufa. And what does he write? Al Pnei Meos HaMichtavim. There's hundreds of letters he wrote. And Muskeres Atzas Hisbodedus Pamim Raus, and he talked about the advice of Hisbodedus so many times in all those letters. And yet, only in a small portion of the letters, did he mention specifically an hour to speak to Hashem. But most of the letters, even said Hisbodedus, he doesn't say an hour. But what does constantly get reviewed and over, like the thread that goes through everything, is what? Here's the critical point. Yom chok v'lo yaver. What's much necessary is, and obliged, is to do hisbodedus yom every day. Hopefully, a decree that cannot be crossed over. To not even miss one day. As he writes many, many times, and this is one example in his letters. And and spread out your words before Hashem every day, a chok, a decree without transgressing. And a day should not pass without these photos. And that's all. Why? All his letters, the purpose of his letters were strengthening and encouragement. And Rabbi Nassan knew these letters would be published later on for people to study from them. And this would be a source of encouragement to anybody who's following the Breslov path. As he writes in one of the letters, I hope to Hashem, these letters will be very precious in the future. So obviously he knew what he was writing. And therefore, he very rarely wrote a full hour, except to some people. But he always said, consistency, that's going to be the key. So the time that you say you're going to do HISBODEDUS, that is every single day without fail. Okay. Now, Shas HISBODEDUS. Now, this idea of this Sha'ah of HISBODEDUS, however we translate it, that's the perfection that applies to all people. This is the way in which we equate the words of Rabbi Nachman as is written in the letters of Rabbi Nosson. He says, quote, in one of the letters, and you have to be alacritous, to make a sha'ah every day, to expand your speech before Hashem. How much we spoke about this in the name of the Rebbe. It's an overall advice that applies to everybody who wants Kedusha. And through that, you'll purify yourselves from the lusts of this world. You will merit to return in tshuva, and come close. L'Hashem Yisbarach, to Hashem, and to unify with him. We're on page Kuf. And he emphasized Rabbi Nosson. I'll say, Hiftiach Rabbeinu, and our Rebbe promised us, he guarantees. Anyone who fulfills this behavior of every day, you will merit to reach the goal for which Hashem sent you in this world. And the other famous words of the Chassid Reb Yitzchak Breiter, that Hashem should avenge his blood, that he said in a letter in the name of Rabbi Nachman. This is what Rabbi Nachman said, is being quoted by Rabbi Yitzchak Breiter. This is what I was able to effectuate from Hashem. I got to agree to this. Any Jew who fulfills HISBODEDUS in its simplicity completely every day, to stand in our before Hashem, will merit all goods. He'll have no judgment above. Now it's good to bring in the words of the Shalah HaKadosh, quote, anyone who merits for this virtue of HISBODEDUS and thinks every day in tshuva, and he has regret on the past, the charot, the gemura with completely regret, completely leaves it, certainly all his sins will be forgiven. He will merit extra kedusha. HaKadosh will achieve divine inspiration, and the simon which we mentioned earlier in the introductions, Bad Kodesh, holy clothes of linen, Yilbash, you should wear. We said it's a play on words. Return alone to be HISBODEDUS. Bad is the root of HISBODEDUS in seclusion with Hashem. Remes Nomer Dorshi Rishumas. Now we come to the hint that the rabbis who look for hints. Back to that mission. That's why the name of this chapter. Ein lecha adam she'ein lo shah. There is no person who doesn't have his hour. Now you understand the deeper pshat. Lo timtzami sharoi l'Torah. You won't find anybody who should be called an Adam. Remember, Adam is a very important term. Only Jews can be an Adam, a real person, a mensch. Ein lecha Adam. You can't be an Adam. Who has that hour of HISBODEDUS. Shoshefu shavayo. He sits for that 1 hour. Noichach p'nei Hashem, before Hashem. There's another meaning of the word shah. If you recall, when Cain and Hevel brought their korbanos to Hashem, the word that is used if Hashem accepted their korban or not is the word sha'ah, which means to turn. And it says Hashem turned to Hevel's korban, but he did not turn to Hevel's. And that's another meaning of the shah. It's got to be a turn. You're turning to Hashem in that shah, a shah achas. And that's what it really means, you know. And all these Gemaras that talk about shah. Remember the start, Rabbi Elazar ben Durdaya, the guy who did all the sins in the world. And then he spends that time, you know, after that whole story with the Zoyna and everything, and he saw that it's all up to me, and he cried till he died. And Rabbi says, Yesh koino olama b'shah achas. One acquires his world in one shah. Which means what? One turn, but really, now we understand, you can be koino olam, if with one shah every day, you can be koino your olam. That's you require the whole world. Okay, but anyway, so that's, let's see, can we do a little bit more? Let's do a little more. Im kolmar, based on everything we said, even that, sorry, you have to know. Even if you can't merit to do an hour, you're first goes to the fun of Yisparach. A day should never pass without you pouring something out of your heart to Hashem. You got to remember that always. HISBODEDUS v'yachud. HISBODEDUS is that rope. Hachevel. Hakesher bo anu ksharim l'Hashem. So that's the rope we hang on to Hashem. Don't let a day go by where you're not hanging on to the rope. Tischaber l'Hashem is for connect to Hashem. And that I heard from Rabbi Yitzchak Meir Shechter Shlita. Yes, Steve, your hand is up.
It's 2 o'clock, Rabbi.
I'm sorry.
It's 2 o'clock, that's all.
No, it's 1 minute to 2. Maybe I can ask a question for tomorrow, and that is, if this is not rote, but it's really coming from the heart, surely the amount that you spend each day is going to vary depending on what you have to say.
That's what you think. But you know what? Once you start going, you see you're not going to be able to stop. We'll talk about that.
Yeah, because I'm thinking about when you speak to your wife, you don't always have the same length of conversation or depth of conversation because things are going on or they're not going on.
Yeah, because she's only your wife. She can't do as much as Hashem can do for you, can she?
She's not home right now, so I could say anything I want, but I'm not going to answer.
Your wife is, she can't solve all your problems.
Because
but Hashem,
this is recorded.
Hashem can. And you don't have to do tshuva to your wife. You have to do tshuva. We'll talk more about
Square
it.
it, Rabbi. Thank you very much.
Here. We'll begin at page Kuf Aleph. Everybody.
Good day, gentlemen.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Take care. Bye-bye.